Hello, my beautiful beings. Welcome back to the Beaming Podcast. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about recognizing your light and how to recognize when you're giving too much of your energy away. I really wanted to touch on this topic because I feel like I just moved through a major season of this where I really started to understand what this meant to my core. I was having a conversation with a girl I met while I was recently in Scotland, and she told me that I was a lighthouse. And I didn't really understand this concept at first, but when she started breaking it down to me, it really made sense. And what a lighthouse is I am a beam of light, and I can project my light onto people that may feel stranded and help them find their way to shore. And this resonated with me so deeply in this moment with Lisa. Lisa, shout out to you. I really need to go get that book that you recommended to me. She gave it to me and I forgot to grab it from the studio. I never got a chance to get back over there, but I'm going to go get it. I think it was called Letter to a Starseed. I'm going to go get it today. I went to go look for it the other day and I didn't see it. Sorry, tangent. But Lisa, shout out to you for really bringing this concept to my attention, because I feel like throughout life, people have always told me that I'm a light worker, like I'm a beam of light, keyword beaming being the name of my business. And I never resonated with the word light worker because I was like, I understand that concept, but I feel like I don't mean to sometimes bring people into my light. I just feel like over the last couple years, I've really stayed dedicated to understanding what this light was within me, because in my last episode, I was talking about emotional landmines and understanding the depths of your shadows, the things that make you feel a little bit more triggered, a little bit more anxious, sad, those low vibrational negative feelings. And I think within that concept, I realized throughout all my whole life, my whole 20s, I've just been doing extensive shadow work. So I've really found my way out of my emotional jungle, and I really enjoy standing in the light, and I'm happy that people feel comfortable finding that when they meet me. So I've really made my whole practice and my whole journey about helping people reach that level of tranquility and peace. I've mentioned in my other episode how good it feels to stand in the light and feel comfortable. But I think the duality of this is that you can't always stand in the light. You always have to go back to the shadows, because if you stand in the light for too long, you would burn. So you had to take a break in the shade. So I want to really emphasize how important it is when you get to a certain point in your healing journey. Not everything is always going to feel perfect. It's not always going to feel comfortable. And in life, you would be really living a superficial reality if you thought that everything was always going to be perfect. And I think this is a good moment in time to remind people that it can feel scary and intimidating to do shadow work. But if you really hold yourself accountable to understanding the duality of light and dark, and knowing that you can go into your darkness and stay there for a second, but make the choice with that fork in the road to go back to a place of love and light, is also very possible. It doesn't have to be like this intimidating thing to go back within your shadows, because if there's one thing I've learned in the last couple of weeks, no matter how dark your shadows feel, the second you release that cap of emotion, of burnt up emotion, that energy within you, you'll always feel better. And I want to preface this by saying, okay, let me take you into my last week, okay? Because it was crazy, and how this came up for me was nuts. So I decided to book a trip to go see one of my good friends in Scotland. It was my first time ever solo traveling. I wanted to just get away from some of the things that I've been moving through within my life personally. And it was just a call. I felt like I need to experience something new in whatever capacity that is. And then I also really genuinely wanted to see my friend and what they've built out there in Scotland with the dance studio that they created. And I just wanted to see it in real time because it was a major moment for my friend. So anyway, I booked the ticket and I got on the plane and I have the experience, and I was really just shocked with my ability to be able to talk to really anybody, because I have this unshakable confidence within me and this knowingness of who I am, aka my inner light, and being able to really stand within the footing and speak to people from this vantage point within me. And as I'm moving throughout this trip, I realized that my friend's got a couple of things going on and that I need to take initiative to just find the healers out here. I just got this calling. I was like, I really feel like getting to know the healers out here would be really cool because it's another side of the world, and they like to say across the pond. And I really wanted to understand like what the healing was like here, because I feel like sometimes even when I watch back some of these episodes, I'm like, do people understand what I'm saying? Like, it feels so good when it comes off the tongue, but like, is it translating? So I just wanted to see what my magic, I call it, or like my sparkles would feel like in another place. And I know that's funny, but it's like your 20s are all about just figuring things out. Like, it's really not that serious. Just find what you're passionate about and just keep trying until, you see if it works for you or not. And if there's one thing I've really committed to within all of my side hustles, I don't know one person that doesn't come to my Instagram and ask me, Brittany, what do you really do? Because you do a little bit of this, you do everything. And I'm like, finding a niche is just the bane of my existence. Okay. So anyway, I just wanted to see what my sparkles, my confidence, my light, how it would translate on another side of the world. And initially, when I first started meeting people, I felt like Scotland had this like really rough exterior, but like this ooey gooey interior that would take a lot of safety and protection to access within certain individuals that I was talking to. So anyway, I look up a healer in Scotland and I found her following, and I was like, okay, if this is a healer, she probably follows other healers out here. So I went through her following and I found the We Sanctuary, and I started going back and forth with Amanda in voice message. And I knew the second I got a voice memo from her that she speaks my language. I love talking to people. I like hearing how people are using their tone of voice. I like to just hear the word choice and like how I feel seen, respected, and heard within that form of communication. And I just think text is sometimes a bit of a failure. Like, I feel like voice memos they really get the point across. But anyway, sorry, that's a tangent. But anyway, me and Amanda start exchanging just ideas, and she invites me to this woman circle that she's having out there, which I felt so called to because like I did a couple women circles, but like, oh man, my ADHD. Anyway, we're gonna get a woman circle out there soon, but I was so happy to get invited into Amanda's woman circle in particular because it was just a bunch of women of all shapes, sizes, and ages, and emotional intelligence just coming together and really expressing themselves as one. And it was so cool to watch the transition of somebody maybe feeling a little bit more shady, a little bit more in their shadows, a little bit more comfortable in their insecurities almost. And I say that so gently, and watching how over the span of a couple of hours, how by standing in the light and being with others that maybe we're feeling a little bit more confident or a little bit more high energy, watching how these more shady beings ended up radiating this beam of light towards the end of the day. It was so intoxicating for me to watch, and it was just so beautiful because it shows you that even though you may feel insecure, sad, or shameful about something, honoring it and holding space for it and breathing through it and being around others that may have more access to light is really a comfortable way of getting to know your light. And that shows you how important it is to surround yourself with people that are like-minded, that are on the same mission as you, because that's what it gave me within confirmation. And bringing this back to just really recognizing, like, kind of when your light is being taken away is when you find this access to this inner confidence within, trying not to overextend this energy to everyone, because it is not your responsibility to make people feel comfortable and to make people find their own personal light. That is not your life's mission. Finding your light is about understanding your safe zones, and when you feel like you need to give yourself, your inner self, the permission to not exist within your shadows. I really do feel like that is what I really took away from this trip. And, as I was moving through this trip, it was really triggering. My friend was moving through a lot within their own life, and I felt like I was constantly being pulled into these conversations where I have been trained my mind to think from a positive perspective more than a negative one. And I just constantly kept falling into these conversations with like after the span of a few days, like low-key feeling like emotionally depleted. And this reminded me like, wow, like it's beautiful to get to a point in your healing journey when you really feel like you have sat with everything that you've moved through within your life. When I was going through my healing journey, I recognized from the moment I was born, I had these tethers connected to me. And I dedicated a good portion of my life to getting to know these tethers because I acknowledged from a really young age I couldn't move through life with these energetic attachments. Okay? Every time one would shake, I would feel like a crazy person. For example, me and my mom didn't always have the best relationship growing up. She has always been there for me, and I know my mom would do absolutely anything for me, but it was just a really hard relationship to navigate because I just didn't have the life experience to understand her like I do now. So that was really hard growing up, especially considering everything that we were moving through within our family. And so when her and I would have a disagreement or I don't know, just anything, it would feel like because she was my main parent that like when that tether would start to move, it felt like I couldn't even exist within my reality because it almost felt like I was being abandoned or alone. And recognizing that feeling from such a young age, it made it really hard to navigate my adolescence. So I remember within my healing, I wrote down each person's name that was just creating like this energetic frequency within me that almost felt like an infiltration to my true spirit. It felt really hard to navigate. So I went through each one of these people and identified like what was I being triggered by? How was that affecting me inside? And I really went throughout my life just trying to pinpoint what exactly was going on. And it felt so good to really get to know these tethers because as I started to really acknowledge them, sit with them, and consider how they may be affecting me in real time, it made it easier to interact with these beings that I was energetically connected to, and knowing how it made me feel, recognizing how I could do better within these relationships and how I could show up as my best self from authentically me gave me this unshakable confidence to genuinely talk to anybody at this stage of my life because I've really taken the time to understand these tethers. And healing is a never-ending journey. It's never going to be perfect. I'm never going to understand these energetic ties for so long, but if there's one thing I've really understood, and somebody said this to me the other day while I was at work, is that I can forgive you for not being sorry, but I don't have to forgive you enough to reconcile with you. And I really started to understand this so that I can cord cut, is what we call it in the realms of healing, is I'm able to energetically cut a cord if I feel like it's not a vibrational match to my spirit. And that was unshakable within my journey. Okay, sometimes people are just not for you. And it's really crazy. You can really overextend yourself, and because you are this beam of light and you're recognizing this within you, and you recognize I love standing in the sun, but you can stand in the sun as long as you want, but you are going to have to go to the shade. I know I said that already, but it's so true. And sometimes you're going to go through life and you're going to realize that you have this repetitive cycle of not acknowledging when somebody is not deserving of your energy, and you're going to have to realize that it is time to cut that cord. How long are we going to keep this person in our life that is not serving us? When are we going to acknowledge that this is pain? This is not thriving. This is not fulfilling. This is not a relationship that I feel that I can pour into anymore. And what, are we going to exhaust ourselves and then just be like drier than the Sahara Desert in this light? No. We are going to acknowledge, we are going to sit with what is coming up for us and see it from a different vantage point. I always say this, there are forks in the road, okay? And you can choose a positive or negative approach. And sometimes you really got to get real with yourself and say, where am I sitting? What direction am I going in? Because it is really important to just really sit with how you feel versus just acting. Okay. If you're coming from a place of just thinking you're right all the time, and it's just this egotistical mindset, sometimes you have to come out of ego and just sit with, okay, this is what's happening over here within me. This is what's happening over here within the person I'm interacting with. And this is this nosebleed perspective that I could look at it from. And, how do I want to move? Is there a more positive approach? Should I sit in my light? Or do I need to honor that I need to sit this one out? This one, I need to save my energy. I need to save my light. My light is for me. This is not something I need to micromanage or control, so to speak. This is something I'm really starting to understand at this stage of life, like calming down my control freak tendencies, because I think as a child, I always felt kind of not safe in a way. And it makes me so sad to say that, because I do really love my family and I feel so grateful for everything that they gave me. But yeah, when you're born into things that adults can't make sense of themselves, unfortunately, and not being able to educate the children, it makes it really hard for the child to have like this blind confidence, because you don't really feel like you're being guided. So I say that all to say it is so important to understand your light and know when you're going in and out of it and how to make the best choices for you, because the people that are energetically tied to you, once you start to really understand your light and know it for you, they're going to want to stand in it naturally. Like if you're standing in a good warm beam of light, somebody's going to want to join you within that. And you really need to honor when you're giving that away so that you can still show up for you. Because at the end of the day, no matter how much you bring people in, let's say you are a natural light worker, you are a lighthouse for people, you have a way of making people feel safe, you have to recognize that that's sometimes just not your job. Sometimes like you can, and you just need to know. You need to know your boundaries. Knowing your boundaries is really important. And this is something that I am even still working on. I could sit here and talk to you in a mic without interrupting my flow of thought, but even I have things that I need to work on. We are not perfect beings. I am so tired of coming onto, social media and not finding people that are just real, raw, and authentic. And to be honest, I was just talking about this with my friend Riley yesterday. I have nothing to hide. I really don't. It's my past. If I could go back and change my past, and should I be afraid of being my authentic self? No. I work so hard to stand in the light, and I have nothing to be fearful of. If I can go, why should I be afraid of my past? Can you go back into my past and change it, edit, and modify? Because if you can, I would love to know how, because I look back at my life and it makes me who I am. And yes, have I gone through some traumatic things that I wish I could change? Of course. I feel like we all have that within us. But if I chose to just succumb to some of the things that I've been through, I wouldn't be able to enjoy the essence of light and what life is supposed to be. And I'm so proud of looking back at my light, even though it's uncomfortable. And if there's one thing that Amanda in Scotland from the Weave Sanctuary taught me in the last week, it's okay to sit with feelings that are uncomfortable. It's okay to take off that cap and let the emotions flow through you, because it gets you back to the light. It shows you where you want to radiate from. And sometimes it's okay to get sad and sit in your shadows and just show up as exactly who you are. Getting to know your light is one of the best things you could do for yourself, especially within your 20s. I think getting to know yourself is your number one job. You have your whole life to figure out how to make that 9-to-5 work, or just make sure you know who you are so that the spaces that you put yourself in do feel safe and secure, because you deserve that and you owe yourself that. You genuinely do. And I think I'm going to leave that there. I just felt the channel just release. We'll talk about something. Maybe we're going to talk about I don't know what we're going to talk about in the next episode, but I just love coming and sitting here and just being open and talking. I don't know who resonates with this. Sometimes I don't even know if I'm really genuinely making sense for real, but I just want there to be a space on the internet where people feel like their shadows, their light are seen and respected and appreciated. Life is really, really hard. And just knowing that there's somebody out there that you may look up to, or you may think is pretty, or you wonder how they do their life. It's like, yeah, okay. I might have this curly hair and these big eyes, but yeah, I feel sometimes like an emotional mess, okay? Like I'm just out here winging it. But, if there's one thing I've really learned is that winging it has gotten me to where I am today. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you in another episode. You can find me on Instagram at Brittany Hope, and I'm so, so overjoyed to have you guys here. With so much love, namaste.